Today, we're pointed in the right direction. We're losing jobs at less than half the rate we were when I took office.
President Obama in the Rose Garden today, noting some relatively good economic news for a change. Let's bring in the panel. Steve Hayes of the Weekly Standard, Kirsten Powers from the New York Post, and syndicated columnist Charles Krauthammer. Well, let's take a look at the numbers today. 247,000 people lost their jobs in July. Well, not good news. That is the fewest in a year, and the unemployment rate dropped from 9.5% to 9.4%, and that's the first monthly decline in 15 months. So, Steve, let me start with you. How important are those numbers in terms of the economy? How important are those numbers in terms of the president's political standing?
Well, they're good for the economy, and they're good for the president. I think they're very important for the president politically. It's a moment at least that he can stop and say, look, the stimulus is working. They've been making this argument now for months. I think it's a dubious argument. I think they have very little that they can point to and say this is what's caused the economy to turn around. But given these numbers, the unemployment was the one area where things continued to slide. If we saw all of these other indicators that the economy was at least not continuing to decline, unemployment was one area where that wasn't happening. This, at least, even if they're just treading water, which I think is really what this number indicates, that's good news for the White House.
And Kirsten, I do want to point out, though, that the White House was being very careful today. In his briefing, Press Secretary Robert Gibbs said the unemployment rate could still go up over 10%. Why do you think they were being so cautious?
Well, because it could, and also they're managing expectations very smartly. That Gibbs let people know yesterday essentially what was going to happen. And
actually,
I think,
he said it was going to tick up a couple.
Right. Again, it was managing the expectations, right, and so that it was better than what he said it was going to be. And I think that really, at the end of the day, what this is mostly about, it's not so much about what the stimulus is doing specifically. It's about confidence. It's about people feeling confident in the economy. And as long as they can have some good news, as small as it might be, coming out, then that will help Americans feel a little more confident, a little more safe about spending money.
It's good news, but there are caveats. The reason that the rate went down is because the denominator, the number of people who are looking for jobs, had decreased. People have given up. There's a high level of discouragement. If you take those people out of the equation, then you get a drop in the unemployment number. And secondly, it's within statistical error because it's from a survey.
But still, 247,000 people, while certainly not good news and a terrible tragedy, right, for them is a lot better. 247,000 losing their jobs this month is a lot better than the 600,000 who were doing.
That's true. But if you look inside the numbers, as they say on SportsCenter, the number of those who have been unemployed for a short time is dropping a lot, which means that the shedding of jobs in private industry is decreasing and it's going to plateau. However, the number of people who've been unemployed over 15 weeks is the highest ever means the last 61 years when they started recording this. And you've got over a third of the unemployed have been unemployed for over 27 weeks. That implies that the precipitous drop in employment, which had occurred earlier in the year, is leveling off. However, those people are not getting their jobs back. And what we could have is a chronic unemployment on a European scale, which we have not seen in America for a long time.
We've got a couple of minutes left in this segment, and I want to pick up on what you raised in the beginning, Steve, and that is the question, and certainly the White House made that point today, both the President and Gibbs. Does this show that the stimulus is starting to work, the $787 billion stimulus? You had Christina Romer saying that it added 2% to economic growth, so it was -1 rather than -3 in the second quarter.
Right. I think it's just a very hard argument for them to make. There's very little that they can point to that was actually stimulative. This was the criticism of the stimulus when it was crafted, was that it's not stimulative. It's a giveaway, $787 giveaway to Democratic special interests, and it's not stimulative. So the fact that so much of it is backloaded and that they've spent so little of it thus far makes, I think, it very difficult for them to say this was stimulative. This is a cause for the turnaround. Not to mention the fact that you have TARP and all of these other things that really are responsible for stabilizing the credit markets.
Real quick. quickly, Kirsten.
Well, I mean, I think that there's an element of truth to that. It wasn't the most stimulative bill they could come up with, but I really do think that it's a lot about, it's a psychological aspect, that when people feel that something's happening, that the government's doing something, that restores confidence. It makes people more confident in investing in the stock market. It makes the stock market, it makes people, people feel more confident about America.
All right, we have to step aside for a moment. Opponents try to shoot down health care reform, and the U.S. blows up a really bad guy. The Friday lightning round is next.